Guys, I cannot believe that Apple gimped this new iPad this much. Apple finally redesigned the budget iPad, but how much better is it than the 9th generation that they still sell because they raised the price point of the new one up to $450? Well, we're gonna compare everything, starting off with the design, the speakers, the displays, the brand new camera system, the performance, since some people said that Apple capped the A14, and much more. Like I mentioned, we've been waiting for this iPad for a while now, and Apple gave it to us, including some brand new colors that pop way more than before. So take a look at that, oh my goodness. Wow. That's my first impression. This is even bolder than what I saw online. It looked bold before, but geez, this blue. Okay, I'm gonna have to compare it to the iPads. But we'll do that in a separate video, so make sure to subscribe if you guys want to see a comparison against the iPad Air 5. But my goodness, this thing pops like crazy. I think some people are gonna buy this new iPad just for the updated design and these new colors compared to the cheaper option. Now, obviously we have the flat sides there all around. It looks more modern and clean. We now have stereo speakers, so you see them at the bottom there, and then also at the top where the old one doesn't have that. And we have USB Type-C, which we're gonna test out how fast is this port. Apple didn't mention it, and I haven't seen anybody test that, so I'm excited for those two tests. On the back, it's completely flat, and you guys see the camera is much larger than the tiny one before. I'll also have to test that out. Not a lot of people shoot stuff with their iPads, but my kids do. They're just complaining how this iPad sucks in terms of video quality. We also have a much larger microphone. The smart connector is a lot larger now, and unfortunately, we do not have a headphone jack like the previous one does, so that might be a deal breaker for some people. Now, we also have that Touch ID button that is much larger at the top here, just like the iPad Air, whereas the older iPad has that Touch ID built in on the front. The buttons are larger and easier to find and press compared to the previous iPad. And as far as dimensions, the new iPad is actually slightly wider but shorter, and it is actually lighter and slightly thinner than the old design. But in the hand, it doesn't feel thinner because of the squared off edges compared to these rounded ones. So I think this one's a little bit more comfortable. Looking at the front of the iPads, you see that the new one has even bezels all around, compared to the older design where we actually have slimmer bezels on the sides, but much thicker on the top and bottom because of that Touch ID and that camera there. Now I'm gonna cover the differences in displays here soon, but first I have to test out the differences in speakers. So let's go ahead and take a listen. There you guys go. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Now the difference having stereo and not is huge. With the older iPad, you hear all the sound from one side, whereas the new one, it's stereo. Plus we have way more bass. It might be slightly louder, I'm not sure. But what's surprising me is that the older iPad design, it has a lot more high frequencies, whereas this one sounds slightly muted in the highs. Now I'm curious, does the iPad Air have much better speakers? We will find out in that comparison. But overall, it's a win because that was probably the biggest downside of this iPad. So some people, if you watch a lot of videos playing games, this might be enough to upgrade or buy this one. Now our other biggest complaint was the display. So getting into that, you would think that it would be a big update. We have 10.9 inches compared to 10.2, but it really isn't because both of these displays have the same exact peak brightness of 500 nits instead of 600 or more on the other iPads. The details of the screens are exactly the same, 264 ppi. They're both limited to sRGB for color accuracy, and both of them are 60 Hertz, not ProMotion 120 Hertz or 90. Now the worst thing is that the new iPad still has a non-laminated display, which means there is a gap between the glass at the top and the screen itself. Now that is bad because you get a lot more reflectivity. The screen doesn't seem right up there next to you. It also lowers contrast and it increases reflectivity. And it is bad for for Apple Pencil users because where you place the actual pencil isn't where the actual drawing is being made, especially looking slightly off to the side. You see that it's not exactly there like it is if you have a laminated display. Now you guys may have noticed the delay and lag, you guys saw that right there too, where your drawing doesn't actually keep up with the pencil itself. Now that's because of the 60 Hertz and because we're using the old Apple Pencil. And what sucks is that the new one still uses the original Apple Pencil that came out in 2015. Now I wanna test out if the delay is any better, but I can't use this because you actually need an adapter now in order to be able to pair it and charge this Apple Pencil, because now we have that USB Type-C port. Now you would think that Apple would include it in the box if you buy a new iPad, but nope, it is not here. You have to buy that separately for $9. And even when pre-orders opened at 5 a.m., I ordered it right away. It would only come on November 2nd or November 1st if I spent $8 on shipping, which I did. Now, Apple is selling an updated package with this old Apple Pencil that has the adapter included, but that is also only shipping in November, even if I ordered it right away. So that sucks. Now, we do have this nice braided cable included in the box, which is cool, but I would rather not have the braided cable and have the adapter included in the box, because so many people already have these. You can buy them for cheap online, but nope, we need to have an adapter now to use this Apple Pencil and pair it. Now what we should have is compatibility with the Apple Pencil 2 that can magnetically attach and charge, just like on the iPad Air, but nope, that is not here, and you have to use the old one, which is absolutely crazy. Now once I finally get the adapter, we are gonna compare the Apple Pencil original to the 2 with the iPad Air that uses it to see how much better of an experience that is, so make sure you guys are subscribed. With that, Apple also added a brand new keyboard for this iPad. Now that is because the cameras have finally switched from a landscape setup to a horizontal setup like this. So with that keyboard, you have a nice centered shot, unlike the iPad Pros, where you're looking at the screen. It looks like you're looking way off from the side. Now you may be asking, where is my keyboard? Why am I not showing it off? Well, I ordered it at the same time as the iPad, right at pre-order open. Should have came today, but it is delayed and it's gonna come sometime hopefully soon. I might try to get my hands on one earlier, get it locally, so we can compare it to the Magic Keyboard, but that definitely is a bummer. And that thing is expensive as well. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and test out the quality of these cameras and the microphones. This is the quality of the front-facing camera and microphones, holding it like it normally would. Of course, I'm being cut off, so I'd have to raise it up a bit, maybe move over and try to look like this. And this is the quality of the new 10th generation iPad, holding it exactly the same. It is centered. You see my whole face, and you guys let me know down below which one sounded better in terms of microphones. Now on the back, the 9th gen iPad has this tiny 8 megapixel camera compared to a much larger 12 megapixel on the iPad 10. Here's a sample shot of Vadim. The iPad 10th gen definitely looks better, a lot more contrast, a lot more detail. Now, it's not great on the new iPad, but it is better in every way. And I also did a zoom shot, and look at that. No wonder my kids were complaining about the camera quality when they were trying to make little videos and edit them together. And now let's get into performance. Both of these have 64 gigabytes of storage, and I wanna see how fast is the storage and how fast is this new USB Type-C port. It looks like as far as read, we have about 100 megabyte per second faster on the 10th gen iPad, but for write, it is about 70 megabyte per second faster, not much, and that is actually a really slow speed for a USB Type-C port if you're transferring files onto the device. Now I'm gonna do a transfer test, but unfortunately I can't even get my SSD, which is not Thunderbolt, to connect to this iPad through Lightning. Maybe I need an adapter. Usually people are just using like a SD card reader plugged into it that Apple sells. Connecting it to the iPad 10, it shows up right away and works. So let's go ahead and grab this file here, and we are going to move it to the iPad. I'm gonna hit copy and start my stopwatch here. We'll see how long that takes. Oh my goodness. It says 11 minutes and 11 seconds so far for a file that is under 25 gigabytes. It's just one video clip, which is the easiest file to transfer because it's not split up. Unfortunately, we don't have a readout telling us how fast the transfer is going, but it's settled in now, and it does look like it's just over 11 minutes. Now, on my Mac, this took exactly 1 minute to transfer. Guys, I did the math, and based on the file size and the time it's taking, that's going at 41.25 megabytes per second. That is USB 2 speeds. And we're not limited by the internal SSD here because that's at 278 megabytes per second. Did Apple really put a USB 2 connector in this USB-C port? That is absolute insanity if they limited it this bad, and it does seem like they did. This is absolutely crazy. Guys, I cannot believe that Apple gimped this new iPad this much. That took 10 minutes and 27 seconds and a half to transfer a file under 25 gigabytes. That is, I would say, almost heartbreaking to see a new iPad that's gonna be around for so long being limited just to make the iPad Air better. Now, we're gonna test this again with the iPad Air when we do that comparison, but I just can't believe in 2022, almost 2023, we're still using USB 2.0 in this port. Look at this, guys. I'm moving the file now from the iPad to the SSD, and it's saying it's gonna take over 11 minutes to do so. And you guys saw the read speed from the iPad is over 700, right? So it's not limiting at all, and it's still taking this long. I just wanted to confirm it. That is insane. And now let's see how this new A14 compares to the previous A13. This one also has 4 gigs of RAM compared to 3. I'm gonna go ahead and run Geekbench's CPU benchmark. All right, guys, we have the scores, and it's also not as good as I wanted to see. We have 3,277 compared to 3,950 for multi-core score. That's a 20% difference, not a huge bump. And this 10th gen iPad with the A14 is actually about 10% slower than the iPad Air 4 with the A14. As far as single core score, we have almost a 20% difference as well, about 18 there. So not huge. Let's go ahead and run the compute test to test out the graphics. I'm curious how that's gonna be. And there you go, that is what I wanted to see. We have 7,300 versus 12,668. That is 73% better metal graphics performance, testing out a lot of different tasks here. That is way higher, and that is on the iPad Air 4's level of graphics. Even though Apple only said it's a 10% increase compared to this one, no, we're seeing 73. With that said, let's go ahead and test out gaming performance. I'm gonna run the Extreme Unlimited test. That way it's running the same resolution off screen. Let's see how this does in terms of gaming. And we have disappointment once again. Now you look at this here, we have 10.9 compared to 12.2. That's about 20% faster. Not a huge difference. I mean, 20% is 20%, but the iPad Air 4 with the same A14 was 20% faster than this one. That means that Apple is slowing down the chip if you're doing an extended load, not even that long in this case, compared to what we had a few years ago. And the M1 iPad Air, well, that is about 30 frames per second. That's 2.5, 3 times faster in terms of gaming performance. So this thing is definitely being slowed down, and that is a bummer. That puts this new iPad 10 generation in a really tough spot because we showed you guys that you can buy an iPad Air 4 for $429 refurbished with a 3-month money-back guarantee, or the M1 version for not much more money. So if this thing was $329 like this one, $350, even $399, it might be okay, but at $450, having the CPU be capped, the graphics be capped as well for if you're gaming, and then that USB port, it's just quite a bit of money. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't care about having the old generation Apple Pencil, you're not even gonna use it, or a keyboard case, things like that, you just want a basic iPad, $329 is still not a bad deal for the 9th generation that you could buy. You can even get it for less, we'll link it down below. At $450, this thing is better in a lot of ways. The screen's not much better, but having those speakers, having that centered camera, having just this new design, it is definitely nice to have, but you are paying a premium for it, especially with the other limitations. So personally, I like this device. It is just a bummer that Apple raised the price that high, and the fact that we have the new webcam, it's great for that keyboard, but the keyboard is also $250. So you're spending some serious coin to get the new design, and the iPad Airs are looking like a much better deal now with these limitations. So my thought is it worth it? For some people, yes, but not for everybody. And we definitely have to compare it to the iPad Air. So if you guys want to see that, click that circle above. Check out one of those great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.